Welcome to Rise and Realign Conversations for the Sensitive Soul. I'm Melissa, and the space is for those of us who feel deeply, love fiercely, and sense the world in ways that are hard to explain but impossible to ignore. Here, we honor your sensitivity as a strength, not something to fix. That's certainly a beautiful, reflection for us to even start with, because certainly being somebody fascinated with the mind and, the mental health field, there often is that approach, right? That there's something wrong with us, there's something to fix. Um, And that's one perspective that many people do live by and also judge others from, right? Like, oh, there's something wrong with them. But really, it comes down to a lack of understanding. When we don't understand ourselves, and when we've been surrounded by others who do not understand themselves, judgment just forms, and I mean, isn't that at the heart of why there's a divide, right, between many of us? Fear gets tapped into, right? If we do not understand why someone else is doing what they do, believe what they believe, or think what they think, then there's a judgment that arises. And, I don't say this from a place of judgment just because it's human nature. And when we really understand that there are multidimensional layers to who we are as humans and having this human experience, but also amongst each other, right? Because we're not all waking up at the same rate, at the same pace, in the same situations. And I really feel like that's something to recognize and honor. Because as I am evolving in my human nature and my career, I certainly can see the women who I'm meeting with. I see where they are coming from. I see where they're even experiencing their reality because I've been there, right? But when we're not evolving and rising up out of those old patterns, we're not able to see the patterns that we're living in. This really speaks to one of the first things that I teach when I am meeting with a new client who, at this point in my career is primarily sensitive, empathic, and heart centered women, right? Those who care so deeply about others and often are putting everyone else before themselves. Um, and that's certainly something that I don't judge because I've lived it. I've been there, I've done that. I am raised from a family who that's what you do. You love deeply, you're loyal, and you care about your family and you put them before yourself. But my own awakening journey 17 years ago, first started helping me to see with new eyes. And what do I mean when I say that? Well, when we're living in the patterns, the conditioning, right, the ancestral and heritage that we've been born into, we're living at that level. That's all we can see. Sometimes I talk about it like, imagine a high-rise building. Well, we're all being born in on that ground level, right? And so that's all we can see. But it's important that as we move up in our level of understanding and our levels of consciousness, so say we move up to the next level of that high-rise building. Well, now we can see from a new vantage point. Now we have the opportunity to see the patterns that not only others are still living in, but where we also were living. And maybe we still are, because it's not like when we, evolve to the next level, we don't ever repeat an old pattern, because that is actually part of the spiral, right? That evolutionary process of growth, because we need to be revisiting those old patterns so that we can respond in a new way and put into practice our new understanding. And that brings so much wisdom that's really important for us to understand, and to, again, honor others where they are on their path. So I just want to speak to, all the amazing women who I have the pleasure and the honor of meeting with, whether they are coming to me because they are seeking some assistance, from me, whether that was as a holistic psychotherapist, or, now within the Realign journey that I offer, which is as a spiral guide. It's as, the creator of Heart Wisdom Realignment, that has been created from my own evolutionary process, right? So it's not something that I can take credit for in the sense of, well, I did this, right? It's more of an honoring of like, okay, this is what I've lived through, and this is what I can see from the patterns that highly sensitive women, right? And again, I'm talking to the roughly 20% of the population who have this very normal yet invisible sensory processing sensitivity trait. So when we're talking, we not only take in 5 times more stimuli in the most common 5 senses, right? We actually are taking it in from the 30 plus senses on a deeper level, because of our more finely tuned central nervous system, because of the uniqueness to our neuroanatomy. And this is truly a gift of sensory intelligence. And this is not something that, again, we weren't raised to understand, because even the amazing Dr. Elaine Aron, who pioneered the research and the naming of this trait, sensory processing sensitivity, right? Like, so much has happened since then. I mean, she introduced this over 30 years ago. I mean, that's amazing to even consider, right? Like 30 years ago, she introduced this to the world. And at the same time, it was being introduced in over 100 species. And so, again, that speaks to the synchronicity, right? The universal orchestration of all things that are happening and unfolding in our universe, and something to really take note of, right? Like, it is meant to be a gift, to nurture, to unwrap, to rewrite the old programs that we grew up carrying with us, right? I mean, so many incredible women who I meet with, who are super women, like, all that they consider and care about and do for their families, right? For their careers, all the things that they're holding together. Um, it is amazing. And it has gone so under acknowledged, and unseen. It's as if, these women, and again, women are my audience, but there's also highly sensitive men who are carrying their load as well. And I really want to invite you into this presence with me of, you don't need to try so hard. You really can pause and breathe and connect with your heart, with your breath, with your body in a new way, and really release. Release all of this stress and tension that just repeats itself. It just builds within the body. And again, stress is not something to fear, but it's certainly something to understand that there needs to be that healthy oscillation between the stressful experiences and the restful experiences, right? Like, and this is an invitation for you to tune in, even just reflect on your day. Okay, how much of today was focused and dedicated to your well being? You, as the sensitive, deeply caring, nurturing, loving, empathic woman that you are. And really, like, consider how many moments there are in a day and how many you actually gave to yourself. I absolutely encourage you, if you're not, to start your day your way. Your way, what's truly best for you. Are you connecting with your breath, your body, the sun, the earth? Are you tuned in to what your body is communicating to you, right? Because signs and symptoms from our body are not an indication of malfunction in the way that many of us raised with a conventional medicine approach, have learned. There really is a deeper intelligence within our body and within the communication that the symptoms are showing us. So this is really an opportunity to, again, reel things in for you and be curious about, are you really taking care of you? Because when we continue to put other people before our own needs, it's harming us. Because our needs, our bodies, right? If we're not tending to our body's needs, our own needs, if we're not listening, if we're not tuning in, then we're giving to others from a very depleted state. And we're giving an example that I certainly don't want to repeat in my children. And I certainly have the opportunity, because I have a young one again. He's about to be 13. But I have the opportunity to raise him in this awareness that, his needs matter. He needs to be tuning into his body. He needs to be aware of, is he saying yes to a friend or a family member, out of some sense of obligation or his deep empathy, not wanting somebody else to hurt, right? I am helping him see that that's not his job. Just like it wasn't my job, but that's what I learned to do. And I feel like I have the most amazing mom on the planet, and I'm so grateful for her. And I can see that I carried forward that conditioning, that behavior, that for me to be, a kind and caring, loving woman, it meant I needed to meet other people's needs. And because I'm highly sensitive, it also meant that I could sense the needs of others before they even recognize them. Boy, was that a wake-up call when I realized that that was really not helpful at all. When we are anticipating the needs of others, when we are sensing what somebody else might need, we're actually preventing them from becoming aware of their own needs and advocating for themselves. So, what I used to think I was doing from a place of love, right? From a place of kindness and caring and dedication and loyalty, I learned was actually inhibiting their development fully, right? And I have amazing children as well. Of course, I'm their mom, so I see their beauty and their light, but I also see how that also gave them the example, you know, meet somebody else's need before your own. And, why we do what we do, again, is multi-dimensional, multi-layered, right? It's not only our conditioning, it's not only, the environment that we're raised in and what our intentions are, right? We also come into this world with our own soul blueprint, like our own soul curriculum, so to speak. Um, and so this is why I say judgment is something that we really want to take a step back from, because I have compassion for myself in the sense of, yep, that's the example I set for my older children who are now adults and married. And if they engage in that same behavior, I can come from a new perspective, right? And say, yeah, I've really realized that that was not healthy or helpful for me, and I can support them through making the changes if they feel it's necessary. But this is that high-rise building that I'm talking about. When we're on one of those levels, somebody else who's on a higher level can see more than we can. But it's not one of us is better than the other. Because as I mentioned earlier, this waking up process, it's not like I was chosen and somebody else wasn't. It's really about us waking up and remembering. And what that looks like is different for all of us, and we don't know what we may have set forth before we did come into this lifetime. Which again, I want to assure you that when I lived on that ground level, I never understood, could not understand when other people would talk about if they had a past life or talked about their soul. Like, I really want to be honest and clear with you that I woke up and I've been waking up more and more. And I am so deeply grateful and honored to be on this path that it fills me with so much love and light and appreciation that I want to be present with those who are also curious, who are also waking up in a sense to, well, what does that mean? I've been conditioned, or how can you do that? Not judge, not blame a parent, whatever it may be. Like, I really want to be clear that it's something that happens through us. It's something that happens for us. And there really is something so much greater than our human mind can comprehend. But this universe is truly amazing in how it orchestrates things. I didn't have a specific topic for this podcast, and I record it though, each week, and I had the recording in my schedule, but there was something unexpected that showed up. And that's exactly how the universe works, right? Like, we, on that ground level understanding of our human nature, are like, oh, well, I need to put something in my schedule. I need to plan to do this. I need to do that. And I'm not saying all people do that, right? But a lot of us live our lives around a calendar and a schedule. But when we understand that the universe works in live time, right? That the unexpected happens. And so today I received notification from a lovely woman who I was a guest on her podcast. And so when that came through, I was reminded of our conversation, and it was so delightful. And it very much focused on the human design system and, how human design came into my life like 12 and a half years ago. And how it came into hers and, how we use it to understand ourselves, right? And how we use it also, both of us do, to help others see that there's nothing wrong with you, there's nothing to fix. But what we can adjust is our perspective, right? How we see ourselves and others and the universe, how we understand why we're doing what we're doing on a day-to-day basis, right? Because when we have something that we can believe in, when we have something that we can trust, something that we can rely on, life does flow so much easier. And it's way easier to be on the restful side instead of the stressful side. But I want to be clear, right? Like, we don't just live on the restful side either when we're more awake and aware and living our authentic and true path, right? Living in alignment doesn't preclude us from experiencing something that may be um, frustrating, right? Like, because those those are clues like, oh, I'm learning something in this experience, those sensations become our greater teachers. We tend to appreciate them more of like, ah, okay, it was time for me to realize that. All right, it took that situation to help me realize that. I'm really grateful. So I'm realizing that tomorrow is our American holiday of Thanksgiving. And, um, you know, what that even means to me has changed so much from the way I was raised as a kid. I mean, it's certainly a day of Thanksgiving and to focus on family time and friendship, relaxing, having fun, being in the sun. Um, but for me, every day has things that I'm grateful for. And I really encourage you to see how you're doing in that area, Every day, where are you giving thanks? Are you appreciating the sun, right? Are you appreciating your home? Are you appreciating the vocation that you have? Are you appreciating your family, your friends, right? Because no matter what we're living through, even when it's one of the greatest challenges of our life, there's always something that we can connect to that we are actually grateful for. There always is. So I invite you to connect with this moment, right? Hand on your heart. And just take a nice deep breath in through your nose. And then a second inhale through your nose. And then exhale out your mouth, nice and slow. And just relax into the moment. And just speak aloud. What are you grateful for? The more you tune in to that frequency of gratitude, of appreciation, the more you draw more experiences and opportunities to see the good in you, in others, in the world around you, and to really just appreciate the life that you've been given to live. Because you're here for a reason and it's important. Your voice matters. Your feelings have value. So I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate you. I appreciate that you're listening to this podcast and you're allowing, this information to be received, to allow it to shift how you're thinking and feeling about yourself and others. Because remember, every one of us has a path to walk. We all have unique challenges, gifts, and opportunities. We don't all choose to go through life celebrating our gifts. Some of us have a really hard time focusing on our gifts and focusing on the good and what we appreciate. But the more each one of us who can do it, the more we influence the collective and others. So know that you matter greatly. Your ability to pause and appreciate and to connect with that sense of gratitude in your heart, that ripples out. It touches more people than you'll ever know. So I wish you a wonderful rest of your day, an amazing day tomorrow if you're celebrating Thanksgiving with friends and family. Laugh, have fun, hug. And if you find yourself maybe doing something alone or different, know that that's okay too. Not that you need my permission. I'm just acknowledging that sometimes being alone is when we connect more deeply with our true self. And then we wake up and cultivate it more in our everyday life. So, till next time, I wish you the best. Big hugs and lots of love.